Hey guys, welcome back. Welcome back to the Master of Dungeons. So, if I haven't earned your sub yet, hopefully this will get it. I am going to be painting Vox Machina. So, we are going to be. Oh, there we go. So, I'm going to be painting them all. The hardest part of this, I think, is going to be the gnomes and the skin tones. Particularly skin tone. I always find skin tone tricky, and eyes as well. But this is this is commission paint that I've been paid to do for a friend. But yeah, so this is what we're going to be doing over the next few clips and things. So I've got all of the Vox Machina ready, and next I'm going to spray them black, and then we will talk about what we're going to do colour-wise, which will be the start of multiple colours. There's a lot going on. Obviously, the blacks of Vex and Vax are going to be the easiest, and the fur of Trinket. I'll also start with the greys of Grog's skin tone, and the greens from Keyleth, and probably the pinks of Scanlan. But here goes. Right, hey guys, so I have made a start on the Vox Machina. Effectively, what you do, the way I started painting is you paint the biggest surface first and get that underway. So what I've done is I've painted Keyleth's cloak, and I started that with Castellan green, and then I will layer it up with sort of like several shades of green. So I moved on to like the Warpstone glow. And start bringing up those sort of like those leaves. Although I'm going to do multiple different colour leaves with all of like those sorts of greens. Trinket, nice and easy. He's he's absolutely huge. So effectively, just sort of like a dry brush of Mornfang brown, and I will do him a wash of Agrex Earth shade and build him up next with like a lighter brown, probably Doomball. Scanlan, the gnomes are incredibly hard to do. They're incredibly tricky because they're very tiny. So Scanlan, as you can see, his shirt, which you can't see very well, I've done as Nagaroth Knight, which is that deep purple, which I will move on to Xeris purple. And for the trousers and his hat, I've done a Screamer pink, and then I will move on to a pink horror to lighten up that. Next, Pike. It's very easy, very simple. All she's got is lead belcher, which I will Nuln Oil as a wash, and then do some highlights and some golds and things. But she's going to be the easiest. Skin tone is going to be the bigger challenge on Pike, and her gloves. Vex and Percy have got two different blues, because effectively Vex, if you look at Vex sort of like in her pictures has like a brighter blue. So what I've done is I've started with Cantor blue for Vex, and then I will sort of like build up Vex with like a Temple Guard and Teclis blue for like those brighter colours. For Percy, what I've done is I've started it with Macragge blue, and I will move on for Percy with some Calgar blue, and then some Fenrisian grey for the highlights. Vax I haven't really done anything with, apart from gone over the Chaos Black with Abaddon Black. The reason you do this is that they are actually different colours, although they might not look it. They might be both blacks. The Abaddon Black's just a better colour, so that's what I've done with him. And then I will start sort of like highlighting his colours with like with Dark Reaper and Thunderhawk blue. There's the Thunderhawk blue. I don't know where my Dark Reaper is, but that effectively I'll start doing the highlights on the edges on his clothing and like his cloak. I think his cloak I'm going to do some different greys, like with the Administratum grey and stuff like that. Start with some Skaven Blight Dinge, and then for his clothes I'll do in the blues. And lastly we've got Grog, and Grog has Celestra grey on his on his skin, which It's coming out quite nicely. He didn't actually look that great when I first did him, but he's that's two thin coats of Celestial Grey. Next, what I'm going to do is wash him, use a wash of Known Oil, and then do another coat of Celestial Grey to bring up his greys. The skin tone is going to be the biggest difficulty in all of these characters, because their faces and everything else are tiny, particularly the gnomes. But what I will start with on all of them, apart from Grog, of course, is Bugman's Glow, and do a base of that. Eventually, the gnomes I'll put Cadian Flesh Tone. The half elves I'll give Kislev Flesh, and I will finish with like a highlight of Pallid Witch Flesh on the half elves. But that's it. That's what's coming up. I'm going to start working on a lot of these metallic bits and everything else for everybody. It's probably going to be the next easiest bit, and I'm not sure. So with Trinket, his armour shouldn't be metallic silver. Like in the thing, his armour is made out of a bullet's, a bullet's hide. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with like a McCraig Blue or something, maybe Cantor, and then I'm going to Thunderhawk Blue it, and then I'm going to finish it with some Pharesian Grey, bring that up to all of those sorts of colours, for a much duller sort of bluish colour, because like a bullet is it's an animal with thick hide, not a metallic armour. So that's what I'm going to do with these guys coming up, and we'll move on to the next bits very soon. Right, so here we go. My next bits on the Vox Machina moved forwards. We'll start with Trinket. Trinket, I did the Agrex Earthshave wash, and then what I've done as well is done dry brush of Doomball Brown over his fur. Just coloured that nicely. Next, what I'm going to do is do a highlight of Skag Brown up the top ends of his fur, up around his neck and up the top end here, keeping it darker down the bottom. And doing some highlight edges around his face and everything of Tuskor fur. The Chitinous armour of the bullet I've done in Dark Reaper, which I will then layer up next with some Thunderhawk Blue. I've painted Tyranids for a long time, so it's going to look very similar to how I've done my Tyranids, and very chitinous. Keyleth. I've done everyone's skin in in Bugman's Glow, and I've also washed them in Reichland Flesh Shade, as you can see. Which next I'm going to start layering up with Cadian Flesh Tone. I've not done any of the silvers. I decided against it for now, before I do others. Keyleth's inner cloak and her her clothing I've done in Wild Flesh for different different shades of green, which the inner cloak I'm going to wash. I've washed it all as well with BL10 green, and then I'm going to do some highlights. The cloaks and clothing I'm going to start with Warboss green, and the inner cloak I'm going to start with some Deathworld Forest. For those sorts of highlights, and maybe a bit of Castellan green as well for different greens shading. Vex, as you see, of course, flesh tones like the others. I've also done her boots in Rhinox hide, as well as Grog's trouser legs. Which I'm also going to do, Vax's boots and his gloves in the same colour. And I will do Percy's boots as well, in that colour. Her legs as well I've painted in Cantor Blue, and this armour I'm going to paint in some browns, which probably start with Rhinox hide and then layer it up as well. Vax, I've painted the inside of his cloak with Scaly Blight Dinge, which is this, and then I've also started highlighting the outside of his cloak. There, which I'm going to sort of like start doing with some more greys and things like Administratum and start bringing all of that up. And these are going to be lighter. Going to be more sort of bluish greys, like Dark Reaper. Grog, I have done his, he's done his Null Oil on his skin, as well as painting those trouser legs. Next I'm going to do another layer of Celestial Grey as well, to start bringing out the tones in his skin a bit more. And then we're going to move on to some of these other bits. The boots, I'm going to start painting in greys, and I'm going to bring that up towards whites for like sort of some sort of like polar bear type colour. Pike, I have given a Null Oil wash and painted these Cantor blue, because they're going to be a similar sort of like bright blue to how I'm doing Vex. And Percy, I've just done some Ushabti bone on his trouser legs, which next I'm going to bring up with some Xandri dust. Next I'm going to do Ushabti bone to layer those up and bring those up in a high colour. And this this piece around his neck, his scarf thing, I'm going to do in Corax white. Scanlan has had the most progress. So I did the his shirt in Xerath purple, and upon closer inspection, if you can see, he's not just got a shirt, he's wearing a waistcoat. So what I've done is I've painted the waistcoat in the Xerath purple, and then I've painted his shirt in Corax white. I'm going to Null Oil the shirt in the Corax white, and then highlight the waistcoat with Genestealer purple. I've done his trousers in pink horror, and then I've just need to do his beret as well in pink horror too. But that's the next lot of progress. Obviously then we're going to start bringing up a lot of these highlights, but we'll come along very nicely and very quickly. So Trinket is very nearly done. I thought I'd make another short shot on Trinket's completion pretty much. So you can see I've sort of like highlight the edges here on his lips and just around his nose a bit with Tuscal fur, and then the top side of his fur up here, as you can see, skag brown, as well as the top of his nose. Done Corax white on his eye, and a bit of Thunderhawk blue on the armour, of course. These side pieces I'm going to paint gold. There's straps under here and up here as well. I've done Rhinox hide, and next sort of like bring them up a bit, I'm going to do some Gorthal brown as well, just sort of like touch the edges. And then of course there are some metal buckles in there, which I'm going to paint with the silver. On the armour, I'm just going to do some Fenrisian grey, and that will finish them off completely. And as you can see, where I've left these edges, I'm going to do similar and just sort of like tap along the tail end of this armour as a highlight. Just tiny touches. But it's going to look great when it finishes. It's very similar to how I do, like I say, how I've done my Tyranids. Right, so Trinket is done. This is the first one of the 7. So I did Auric gold on the side pieces here. That's really make them shine out. There's the Banebow brown on the straps. As we can see, and the Chitinous armour from the Fenrisian grey. It's turned out so much better. It's just light highlights just around the edges. I also did some black eyes but trinket is done trinket. I've also painted his toes black too, but I've not done any highlights on the toes because I don't need it. I'll do some basing as well, but I'm not going to show that off. Don't really need to. But that's the first one. He was absolutely, you know, he being the largest, he's the quickest and easiest. So next, I'm going to move on to the smallest and the most challenging because he has so many different colours. Hey guys, right, so I've done a lot, so I'm going to break it down into smallest bite-sized chunks, and we're going to start with Keyleth, who I've done a fair bit on. Her hair and the sash around, around her waist. What I've done is I've done it with corn red, the belt around the edges here. What I've done is I've done it with some Steel Legion drab, which is like that, which I'm about to build up. The edges here on her cloak and everything else, what I've done is I've done, and on her top there, what I've done is I've done that with a bit of Scarsnet green, and then these edges around the base of her cloak here, what I've done is I've done it with some Elysian green. On the back, done a variance of greens here. So at the top here, what I've done is I've started it with Elysian green. The next section down the bottom here, I've done with Scarsnet green. No, sorry, I've done it with Warboss green. Then this layer down the bottom here, done with Old Green camo, and then lastly down the very base, I've done with Moot green. Next, what we're going to do is start origining up her hair, work on the staff, which I'm also going to do the same Steel Legion drab, and work on a bit of Gorswell brown and Baneblade brown to work on those next bits. Next is Vex. I've painted her armour and these pieces here on a Rhinox side. You can't really see it very well. I'll try and sort of do a bit better lighting, but it's not great. There's a sash underneath here, down the side here, which is part of that cloak, which I need to do in the blues ready. But that's really all we're sort of doing, and then I'm going to next do her skin tones too, and start bringing out some of these colours. At the minute she's quite dark, but then as a ranger as well, she's pretty dark anyway. Done very similar to similar to Vex. These two blades I'll paint with Blood Belcher, as well as the side piece, which I'm going to wash with Nuln Oil. And down here on his down here on his clothing and everything else, I've done with the Dark Reaper, which sort of really brings up the starts to bring out those sort of like bluish highlights on his clothing, which next we'll start working on the Thunderhawk Brew. It works as a better contrast for the greys, which, as you can see, I finished with like the Administratum grey and everything. So for Grog, I've painted his boots in in Scaling Blight Dinge, similar to how the greys do. I'm going to start layering it up with greys. I'm ready to start painting the outer sashes of his fur in whites, which is what my intention is to do on the fur, on the belt and on the gloves. Painted silver, lead belcher on these metal pieces, which I've started, and corn red on that sash piece there. Next, what I'm going to do is start painting these. Belt buckles and things and straps, which I'm going to do with Steel Legion drab, and then bring it out with like Gorswell brown as well for a different contrast, and start layering these browns as well with like some Mornfang and thing. Scanlan, I've done the edges on his waistcoat and jean stealer. I'm starting to do these edges here, along here in in Xeris purple. And then also what I've done is I've done a Agrax Earth shade on his hair, which then next I'll do with some Doomwall Brown to start highlighting that. Percy, what I've done is I've done Altdorf Guard Blue for his cloak, and I've done Mornfang Brown on his gloves and boots. We're starting to work on getting these colours up. Next, what I'm going to do with Percy is highlight his cloak with a bit of a bit of Calgar blue, and finish it up with some Teclis blue as well for more layering and detailing, and work on his weapons. And then lastly, Pike, all I've done is I've started painting gold on her chest piece here, which you can't see very well, but that's starting to come up, which I will, it's Balthasar gold, and I'll do it with some Auric gold. And then her gloves I've also done with, it's Rhinox hide, and I'm going to start bringing those colours up as well to a brighter colour, and we'll start seeing some more finer details on those. And then also, of course, start highlighting all of the skin tones. Right, so I've done a fair bit. I've highlighted the red sash with Evil Sun Scarlet, and there's Wild Rider red for these edges. I did a Gorthal brown on on his trousers, and then a Baneblade brown to highlight these edges. The whites, as you can see, are a nice Corax white. I've painted the knuckles, started to paint the Titan Stone knuckles in browns, which I'm going to start working on with some silver edges and highlights. I've started his first tattoo on his arm with some Abaddon black. On the side there, but I mean the white has really come out very nicely on it, which I'm going to do some gold edging and highlighting on on these metal pieces. There's the edges and the highlights. I've also done some Minderstrong grey on his boots to highlight those, and then a Shabty bone on these bits of cloth here. And what I'll do is do some Screaming Skull on those bits next. Vax has had a lot done. So these, these greens down here and the venom dripping down his leg are wild flesh at the start. Just sort of like do it, just sort of start it off. And then we've done some, some emerald green as like a lighter highlight. Some Warpstone glow. And I've also done like some drips of Warpstone glow down there, and then on top of the drips, and then at the very edges, I've just done moot green. On his flame tongue dagger, which is there, what I've done is exactly the same process. I'm just layering it up with like the reds, and then at the very tip, I've done it with some Fire Dragon Bright, just to the very tip, so it looks like flame. I've done the touches on the highlights of on his legs and everything in Thunderhawk blue, and then these boots. What I've done is I've done some Skag Brown, which is this, and then on top of it I've washed it with some Agrax Earth shade. And then I'm going to do like some another sort of like tiny fine touches of some Skag Brown to really sort of bring those edges out again. And I've done the same on his gloves too. And then around the belt, what I've done is Steel Legion Drab. And then I'll do some Baneblade Brown on it. Pike is Pike has really come along very nicely. The eyes not looking the best at the minute, but they'll come up better. Did some grey, some Celestia grey on her hair, and then just did some white lines, just highlight it. And then I've done some auric gold on her armour as just highlights. And then that red gem, I've done the same sort of like reds that about on other places. And then I'm going to do like a single white dot just to sort of brace it out. Keyleth, what I've done is on this middle sash here and on the staff, done some Silver Legion drab, and I'll bring it up with some Gorsal brown, and then I'm going to Agrax Earth shade it and finish it off with Baneblade brown. There's just some highlighted edges on that. The end of the cloak here, what I did was just along the edges, along here, done some Elysian grey, and same with these bits as well. So you've got a contrast in different colours for her lower cloth. And then at the very tail ends here, I've just done some more green camo, which really brings out these highlights. And at the very tips of her hair, I've done some Fire Dragon Bright as well. I did Troll Slayer for the main orange. And then, of course, I've highlighted her sash very similarly, which is coming along fantastically. Percy, all I've done is some highlights of Avalon Sunset on all of these parts of his cloak to start bringing out all of these colours, which eventually will be auric gold for the golding of it, but I'm using yellows to bring it out first. And then next what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some Uriel yellow, and then I'm going to do that. And I've painted the edges of these as well on his boots of Skag Brown, and I'll Agrax Earth shade those. Scanlan, I wasn't happy with the majority pink and purple contrast, so what I've done is I've just swapped them over. I've given obviously the trousers purple, made his waistcoat pink, and changed his hat purple as well. That should make the colour contrast much better. Vex is the one I've done least with at the minute currently. All I've done is done some Macragge brown, Macragge blue, sorry. The sash, what I'm going to do is very similar to how Percy's coat is of Altdorf Garb blue and Calgar blue. For her legs, what I'm going to do is I'm going to Calgar blue them, and then I'm going to do some Pharesian grey instead, just for a different colour. And then also, of course, I'm going to start highlighting the cloak of Templar blue. So that's it. We're getting close with many of them. Coming along very nicely. Obviously, Grog's tattoos on his face are going to be the hardest thing. But what I've got is I have a set of painting goggles, which I will magnify to try and get the details on his face. That's what I'm about to do in a second anyway, and I'll show you the results. Right, so we're pretty much at the end. This video is long enough, so I've jumped ahead for quite a bit. Effectively, I've just sort of like done some series of reds on Keyleth's gem there, and obviously the same series of swirled browns. The bases, as you can see, what I've done is I've started with some Astragalus debris and then painted them Steel Legion drab, and then if you look at Trinket over here, I've touched it up and finished it with some Torrent Skull. That's to really start getting all of that detail coming up. Grog's is pretty much done. We just need to highlight his sashes on his weapons. Percy is looking amazing actually to his face. But as you see, all of this fine detail. Well, and what I'm going to do is just finish all of the characters in their last moments. the bows and arrows and do her hair, but everyone else is done. So I will finish. I will finish these characters, and then the next moment, what I will do is just give a showcase of how they all look, how they're all finished. But they've come along incredibly well. Hopefully, my client's going to be very happy with this commission, and yeah, we'll see you at the end. Okay, right. So this is it. They're finished. We have trinket. We have a completed grog. Keyleth. Scanlan. Still not happy with Scanlan Pike's faces. They're not very good. They're not great moulds. Fact. Percy. Vex. And Pike. And there we have it, a complete set of Vox Machina, painted, ready for a commission. Hope you've enjoyed this video anyway. Hope you found it informative. Please hit me a like, hit me a subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.